finally, the last leg of our discussion. Tee. Anyways, moving on, we're going to be discussing the last of the portion of this here lab, just pointing out some of the important muscles of the lower limb, aka the leg. Starting off with the superficial anterior skeletal muscle, you might find this particular picture familiar because, well, it is quite pertinent here. It has almost everything that we need here that we want to discuss here. Actually, it sure does. Now I'm looking at it even closer. Starting off, we got ourselves the sartorius. This is the longest muscle in your body. This is the longest muscle in your body. You would think the latissimus dorsi is? No, it's not. This thing extends from the anterior superior iliac spine, working on its way all the way down to that tibial tuberosity. At sartorius, if we were to follow the fascicles and what it does and to try and draw those points together, you would see that it has several functions that it could do. It could be a synergist with helping taking a step forward with the quadriceps. It could be an adduction. It could be an abduction even as well, depending on how it's drawn. We're going to go ahead and look at this one right here, the tensor fasciae latae. I call it the tensor fasciae latae. It's probably not pronounced appropriately, but the way that I remember it's there, it's just there to help you get a latte. You've heard of a really fancy new latte called the tensor fasciae latae. It's there to help. You'll see that it has a lot of ligament to it. It has a lot, not ligament, forgive me, tendon to it. It's just as its belly is right here, but its tendon is pretty much spanning the majority of it right here. It's there to help stabilize and keep tone. So it helps you stand in line to get your tensor fasciae latae. If we work inwards now, you will get to the quadriceps. A lot of you have heard the quadriceps. People say, "Oh, we got to work out them quads. We can't skip leg day." So if you skip leg day, then you're not working out these quads. They're called quads for one and one reason only, because there's four muscles here. And there are really four muscles. There's the vastus lateralis, vastus medialis, and vastus intermedius, with the vastus intermedius is hidden quite nicely by this muscle right here, the rectus femoris. All four of these combine down together into this tendon of the quadriceps and merges down on down in. Finally, the most medial aspect of this upper leg, you'll see the gracilis. Remember the gracilis in the nomenclature means it's long and slender. I think of it as Elvis Graceland, wonderful Elvis Graceland when he was thin. That's just where he resides. That sounded dirty. I digress. Forgive me. I'll keep it in just because it might help somebody remember. Moving on, let's go ahead and rotate this gentleman here. We're going to be talking, or gentlewoman, don't know. We got ourselves at the upper portion, upper aspect, we got a gluteus maximus. If it says gluteus maximus, most likely there is a minimus. And in fact, there's no pictures of this, so obviously you don't need to know about it and where it looks like, and etc. But there is a gluteus minimus and a medius. Gluteus medius, gluteus minimus, and gluteus maximus. And the gluteus maximus is the one defined that everyone associates with that of that gluteal region. Going down, you will see these things called the hamstrings. There's three particular muscles that we care about. There's tons of muscles in between right here, but with the scope of this class, we have absolutely no time to talk about. So we're just going to go ahead and just dive into the hamstrings. We have three main muscles that we're going to talk about with the hamstrings. Starting off with the more lateral aspect of these hamstrings is this one right here. It's called the biceps femoris. You thought that you had only one biceps, but haha, fooled you. There's a biceps femoris. That is, you can feel that. You go to your popliteal region and you feel that lateral region and flex a little bit at that knee, and you'll feel that tendon be nice and pronounced right there. This holds true to these two hamstrings as well. The semimembranosus, semitendinosus. The semitendinosus feels like a nice long, if you go to that popliteal region again, you'll feel that nice, slender, thin tendon right there. That's why it's called the semitendinosus. Underneath that, or if you feel it more medially, you'll feel the nice, thick, fat one too. It's called the semimembranosus. That semimembranosus is reason why it's called that. If you were if we were dissecting a human, you would find that that semimembranosus is really quite shiny because of its membranous, the extra membrane around it, or thick membrane, I should say, extra thick membrane around it. Going down to the last bit of muscles here, we got the gastrocnemius and the soleus. I'm going to actually descend down in the leg and descend down in the pictures to take a better look at this. We got both of these, the gastrocnemius and the soleus, interconnecting with one another into this calcanean tendon. It's also called the Achilles tendon. The reason why, there's the old mythology that I believe it's the mother grabs her son by the tendon and sticks him in the river of Styx in the good old Greek. River of Styx is remember the river of death. It immortal, it made this child almost impenetrable. No arrows, no swords, no nothing, except for in the part that he was dipped by, or the mama held on to, which was the tendon. It's sort of a metaphor to say, hey, watch this. You got to be careful or aim for it, because if you get it cleaved, you're out of the game. Because these muscles will bind up and glob up, and it will be a very unpleasant experience. You will be at the mercy of the enemy team, pretty much. The most superficial muscle is called the gastrocnemius. The gastro means bellies, so you got two very large bellies right here. So the gastroc, and they are rocks if you've really worked it out. So the gastrocnemius, two very large rocks. If you were to pull it away, you would find where your soul resides, the soleus. Okay, that's just how I remembered the soleus. Your soul doesn't actually reside there. We have no idea where it resides. But that soleus is just underneath that. If you were to stand on tippy toe, you should be able to discern between the two and see the two different bumps from these two. The last muscle that I really care about, or that you should really care about, is this tibialis anterior. The tibialis anterior, you'll see, is on the most lateral aspect of your forearm, forgive me, your lower leg. It has a variety of origin points along that tibialis anterior and inserts into your foot. Those of you that have run and really pushed yourselves a little too hard will have experienced something called shin splints, in which the muscle and the bone are getting separated from each other, which is a very uncomfortable experience, and it takes a while to quite heal up. I do remember that I have on my list this extensor digitorum longus, which you can see does follow right. If you were to pull away the tibialis anterior, you would be privy to this extensor digitorum that does indeed have a very similar setup to that of the extensor digitorums in your arm, but this one is called the extensor digitorum longus rather than brevis, because, well, it's pretty darn long. With that, that is the end of our discussion about the muscles, and we will not, again, this is outside the scope of this class. There's just simply not enough time to discuss all these muscles and all their details and all their insertion and origin points. So we will go ahead and call that good. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a lovely time, and remember, you got this.